I think what Professional Educators of Tennessee does is inspire teachers to be better themselves.
I really love affecting the lives of students.
I chose Professional Educators of Tennessee because it's important for me to have an advocate. And PET serves as my advocate, whether my voice is heard at the local level or at the state level.
A teacher is sued by a parent or a student. The coverage is for up to $2 million.
I know there are members that I can contact at any hour of the day and say, I have a question, can you help me? And they'll say, yeah.
PET's a great organization, acting as my representative at the schoolhouse and the state house. They're there for me when I need them, every time I need them. They work for me.
That professionalism is what takes them beyond somebody who's just looking for a job to somebody who's looking to inspire generations of kids. That's what makes it professional, and you're going to be surrounded by people who help do that, who know how to do that, can help you learn how to do it better.
Excuse me. Welcome to today's Concerned Educators Against Forced Unionism with our guest, J.C. Bowman. He's Executive Director and CEO of the Professional Educators of Tennessee, and also a former Marine, which I had forgotten, and I think it's very impressive. And he is really, has one of the, strongest, I would say, independent groups out there. And he has a lot of ideas about how other groups can improve their, membership recruitment and growth. And I want to welcome JC here to give us a little insight of what he's doing in Tennessee. And I will pretty much hand the show over to JC to take us through it. JC?
Hey, thanks, Don. Good to see you again. And always spend time with you guys. And I cannot thank CEAFU enough. I think I've been with CEAFU, with you guys. I was 26 years old the first time I attended a conference with you guys. Mark Mix had hair. That's how far long ago it was. And I appreciate the work that you guys have done. You've been a steadfast ally in our movement. And people forget sometimes how incredible you guys have been. You guys have been doing this since the late 1960s. And I joined you guys about 87, 88. And so that's been a while. So appreciate the work you guys do. Well, yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to talk about this because I think that particularly with the direction that the federal government is going in education, states are going to continue to grow. The power is devolving down to the state level. And so critical that state organizations grow and be there. And I think it's very critical that they're independent. So I want to walk you through some things that I think can help not just our association, Professional Educators of Tennessee, but also can help other associations out there or people who are contemplating creating organizations. I know in Virginia, they've contacted me. They wanted one just for one district. But, so we're going to see some local only associations join. We welcome that. We think it's a great opportunity. We think it's great. So I call this Empowering Educators, the Crucial Role of Independent Teacher Associations, creating a more competitive education association for American educators. So as we know, education is very critical across the nation. We've got a lot of work to do, but we think that it's important that the control of education is at the local level. And we value educator input, and we encourage parents and families to get involved in their child's education. Each generation inherits a mix of beliefs and values, which raises the critical question of which we can preserve, what we can pass on to future generations. And when it comes to education, though, as the profession, I reject the traditionalist view. And with that, that statement is this. I think that we no longer live in the industrial age model. And we're living in a new age of information, AI, everything else. And you got to have a modern organization to adopt to this. So educators in Tennessee, we embrace these modern strategies, teacher representation for advocacy, professionalism, collaboration without a partisan agenda. Some of our union allies, they cling to outdated ideals, but they continue to push the gap between management and labor. That is gone by the wayside. We are no longer management, labor, and they're there to represent labor. We got to recognize that educators are professionals, and we need to unite to work together to educate children across the United States, and particularly here in Tennessee. So we want to make sure we're strengthening our network of allies, enhance coordination among leadership and staff, and so we push a lot of high-tech stuff. So again, we're nonpartisan. We think we're dynamic, non-union association committed to empowering educators statewide. And we advocate for educators and school employees, ensuring their voices are heard by policymakers. And our members benefit from professional development, legal protection, liability coverage, and our member benefits are second to none. We've partnered up with a company out of Texas called AMBA, and we provide incredible benefits for all of our members. And we're taking a collaborative, member-driven approach to education challenges that prioritizes the needs of educators. And so that's how we've been transforming not just education in Tennessee, but also our association model. So we think it's very important, and we think it can be replicated in other states. Here's some strategies. We require external advocacy or direct lobbying. We do lobby. I'm the lobbyist. I do a lot of lobbying. I talk to legislators on a daily basis. My phone rings off the wall. If you know me, I get phone calls from superintendents. I get phone calls from members. I get phone calls from policymakers at the local and the state level, and increasingly at the national level, looking at things. Our foundations and principles must guide our philosophy, our strategy, and our growth. We started out with the idea there is no guaranteed roadmap for success. Where we're going, we think no one else has been. It's just like every day we wake up and stuff is different. So we're prepared for that. We identify the right issues in K-12 education. There's issues that are not educational. We don't get involved in them. It's as simple as that. And so that's something that our members have grown to appreciate. They tell us, Don, the one thing that I think that has been really critical to us, they really like the nonpartisan approach and the fact that we call out everybody that we think is harming our profession. So we're speaking for teachers. And so with that, let me go back to another few core principles. And these are ones I've learned a lot from the National Right to Work. We support the right of educators to join any organization they wish to join without coercion. We don't beat people up to joining our association. We invite them to freely associate. We don't compel them to. We think we got the best deal in town. Our prices are about $200 a member per year. Their dues are at the union level in our state are closing in on $700, if not more, per member per year. They cannot compete with us with that, and we offer better benefits. I mean, quite frankly, we support educators' rights to discuss their working conditions, including wages, benefits, and safety, either alone or with their coworkers. And we do that on behalf of our members. It's called collaborative conferencing, which I'll talk about in a second. But there is no guaranteed roadmap. Again, that's the important thing to remember. We oppose teacher strikes because we believe they damage the profession and they also hurt children. So that's another big strategy that is different from us and the union. Advocacy is essential. And so we've moved to that. Modern approach to teacher representation. You can see the 1, 2, 3 right here. Promote professionalism, collaboration, and excellence without a partisan agenda. Work collaboratively with people on all sides to find the best solution. We know that does not have a political ideology to that. And so, we want to come in board and talk about, we advocate for our members year round. We have been to the legislature at least once or twice a week. Right now, we're working on workers' comp issues with legislators, and we've gotten some stuff with that because districts sometimes don't do a good job with that. So we're working on workers' compensation and when people get injured on the job. We do not use member dues to fund partisan activities or endorse candidates. Educators deserve a professional membership that provides good governance. We do that. And so,
Hey, JC,
yes,
what is your legislature like? I mean, like in Virginia, it's, very short sessions. Is Tennessee similar?
it is. And the interesting part with that, Don, here's the thing is that you start back in Tennessee, we start in January. Well, the first couple of weeks is kind of a waste. And then they come in and they have February, March are really heavy months, and then April they're trying to wrap up everything, and it's a rush to the finish. It's a sprint to the finish. There's not a lot of time to talk about issues. So, like the workers' comp issue that we've worked on, which has been real critical. We've been the comptrollers come out with a report. We asked for a report on it to show that they have different stratas of how they do it in the state. And so with that, some are self-insured, some have outside separate insurance policies, and some partner with the state to provide it. So we have 3 different levels to doing it, but at the end of the day, they're not getting the thing. So we try to get to focus on it because we get teachers who are increasingly being hit by kids. They're being violent. There's violence that goes on in the school. And so they may be out. We've had a teacher that's had their jaw broken, collarbones have been broken, arms have been broken. Teachers have gotten hurt on the job. And so we passed a thing called the Teacher Bill of Rights here, which allows them to actually press charges against the child, which, believe it or not, up until this time, they didn't have to do that. So that was one of the things that we focused in. But
You mean they didn't have the right to charge somebody for an assault?
Yeah, no. And so a lot of districts would encourage them not to press charges. So we leave that back to the teacher to make the decision whether they want to press charges or not. In some cases, they don't. I mean, there could be an inadvertent thing, or it could be planned out physical. The case with the teacher that got their jaw broke, we had him testify in 2020. He unfortunately died with COVID. The individual did, but he literally, he was sitting in his car and a student struck him in the jaw and then literally tried to set the man on fire. Wow. And that is actually on a
security cam
testimony. Yeah, we got him to testify on that in 2020. And then after COVID started, school broke down and did that. But we have a constant issue with teachers even trying to break up fights, doing things like that, where teachers get hurt. We've had a case where a kid didn't get a good grade, and the parent and her significant other waited for the teacher outside the school and jumped the teacher there. We've had to deal with all of these issues. These are real issues, and we go back and bring it. And I will say to you, and interesting with this has passed unanimously. School threats, when threats have gotten called in. So advocacy is critical. We have passed legislation unanimous in our General Assembly. And these guys can't agree on what to have for lunch. And so we think that's been really, really important. Play offense. If you're an association, you have to play offense. And so you can see where I've laid this out. Devote our resources only to advance our mission, which is education. We don't devote resources to non-political things. We're not getting out here and I want to go to this. I don't talk a lot about the unions in our presentations, but today I'm on my home turf a little bit, and I can say some things. But I mean, they came out and talked about confronting ICE agents. That has nothing to do with education.
And I've actually got that video, but we can show it later. I don't want to interrupt you.
Yeah, put that in there. I mean, that is absolutely the encouraging them to confront ICE agents is 180 degrees opposite. It does nothing to advance education. What it actually does, it hurts us in our movement and educating children, and we lose supporters for public education every time we take a position outside the arena of education. And the union cannot help themselves. And we've seen a race, and I'm going to mention both unions, the American Federation of Teachers and the National Education Association in particular. Both of these associations have seemed to be on a race to see who could outdo each other on making outrageous statements. And, Fortunately for us, Don, AFT is not very big in Tennessee. They have about 200 members, from which I've been able to. Most of those are in Campbell County, but in general, they're not active. For us, we talk about tangible professional development, liability insurance, and member benefits. And again, we are constantly recreating member benefits and adding stuff to it. And people go, well, why do you know what to offer teachers? And it's a real simple thing. Teachers tell us what they need. Teachers can retire at 55. They look for things sometimes if they've spent 30 years in the classroom, they can look for things to bridge that gap until Social Security and Medicare kick in. So for them, they're looking for things like dental and vision. And so we offer dental and vision as well. And so we've actually had some charter schools, and we do accept charter member. We accept the whole gamut of membership. 99% of our members are public school teachers, but charter school members are members. And we've had an entire school that did not offer dental and vision join us simply to get the dental and vision that we've been able to put together to provide for members. And sometimes their spouse may work in a non-insurance situation or don't have very good dental and vision insurance, and they can join us and take out that policy and use it as well. So
do you have private school members?
We do. Very few, but as the new landscape has changed with vouchers coming on board in Tennessee, we will grow and we will take most members. But again, we always tell people, at the end of the day, 90% of kids are educated in public schools. 90% of your members are always going to be public school teachers. And so that's going to be, even Florida, which has got some of the most expansive school choice in the nation, they're still at 88% public schools. So 88% of theirs. So, you're going to see 90% of membership will always be rooted in public schools. So we just listen to our members, and we don't get out here on controversial things. Political influence and issue advocacy are the two big things. Political influence doesn't mean that you have to take your checkbook out and stroke a check to get influence. Political influence is when there's an issue there, name the issue, like the violence or dyslexia is one. Dyslexia is one we did just for students. Had some teachers tell us that it was unfair that their child and the children that they were teaching who had dyslexia were not getting services provided for them. And this came right out of Clarksville, Montgomery County. And so I was sitting with the Senate Education Chair, and I told her, I said, why can't we do something for dyslexic children? She said, write me a bill. And so it was a bipartisan bill. The House sponsor, it was Joe Pitts, and Joe Pitts was from Clarksville, Montgomery County. Senator Gresham. Neither one of them are still in the legislature. Joe is now mayor of Clarksville, and Senator Gresham, who, by the way, was a Marine Corps colonel, also retired from being a state senator. But those two worked together to get this bill. It passed unanimously in our General Assembly. Just Say Dyslexia was the bill, passed unanimously. So you can work by doing that. And that is influence. And neither one of those people got a check from professional educators in Tennessee. That was our members who drove the bill, drove the legislation.
Right.
And we were able to pass that.
Well, I think there seems to be something about dyslexia. I just saw, I would think it's in the last week, maybe the last couple of weeks, a bumper sticker. I think it said 1 in 5 kids or something have dyslexia. I had no idea.
20%. That's exactly right. And so it's a growing thing. And what's interesting is that about once a year on the anniversary of the passage of the bill, a lot of the dyslexia folks will mention me or say something about us in there because they know our organization championed that bill. And you go, well, that didn't just benefit teachers. Well, it did benefit teachers because they could get the help for their kids, and their passion was educating children. And so and our teachers are the ones who brought this to us. And so, they have my number. Most of the time, my teachers get my number, my cell number, and they'll text me. And they know the fastest way to reach me because I'm usually in a meeting or something. And they'll text me, and I'll look down and see my emails. And as I'm sitting here, I'm watching them come across right now. but it's fun to do that. And it's really, that for me, it's very rewarding because I know I'm doing something that benefits kids and teachers in our state. So it's a good opportunity. Select the right issues. Back to this. Our priorities are defined by our members. We provide an outlet and voice for educators in Tennessee. And we identify traditional problem areas in our state. Selecting the right issues are important. We don't chase after things that are just absolutely non-relevant to education. They meet both the members and our organization agenda. For example, let me give you one. I do not like the praxis exam. The praxis exam is a test that you take to prove that you've mastered education content. And the reason I don't like it is because it does not align. It's a national exam, and it doesn't align to Tennessee standards. So kids who are getting an education degree at a Tennessee university, what ends up happening is they take a test on stuff that they've never even been taught because it doesn't align to Tennessee standards, special ed in particular. So when they take a test, the students do worse on the test than they normally would have done if the test was aligned to the standards that they have been taught and that our state requires them to be taught.
Now,
So,
have you reached out to the Department of Education's new?
oh yeah, and not only that, I had a meeting with. We pulled it together with Representative Reedy pulled together a meeting with the department and with other agencies, and we had them in there, and I brought this up to them, with them sitting there with legislators in the room, and I just brought it up, and I said, why are we even administering this test? And to give them credit, Praxis came over and said, look, we'll align it to whatever your state tells us to. And we have no problem changing it to make sure it's aligned. And I think they're starting to work on that. Right. But, you have to confront them. And again, so many times organizations tiptoe around the issue and they won't confront because it's an ally and natural procedure. And I have no problem doing it, as confronting issues that I think is relevant. But interesting, when we surveyed our members came back and said they wanted a test that said that they had mastery of knowledge. They didn't want the public to think that they just walked through and they were not certified in it. But, as we've seen federal policies come across right now, we're seeing the federal policies change and things are being moved down to the state level. And I use the example of, at the state level, what we focus in is special education, vocational education, teacher certification, compulsory education, teacher pay, and teacher attrition. Those are some of the big areas that any association out there can be focused in on. Because as federal law, like I said, goes back down to the state level, special education, which we got in 2016, became codified pretty much. PL, the special education law, got codified in our state law. So our special needs kids will get services through there. So when the union comes out and goes, well, Tennessee's not going to educate special ed kids when the federal money goes away, that's not accurate. That's simply not true. Our state law is one of the strongest on the books. So, that's important. And you know it. And so far, Don, this is the greatest thing, which is interesting, as I've outlived 3 executive directors, or not outlived, I've survived 3 executive directors that the union has had at the state level. And so, every time, I've been doing this now longer than probably anybody here in the state. And I mean, this is almost my 40th year in education. And so not only have I been doing it here, I've done it elsewhere, but more importantly, in Tennessee, I'm recognized as somebody that really gives a voice and gives a credence to educational issues in our state.
Well, you definitely are, because anytime I've met anybody from Tennessee and have mentioned your name, they all know you. I mean, as far as when it comes to any kind of legislator who I've met, or even federal legislators, they seem to all know you like that. It's you've got a great reputation.
Well, I appreciate that, and the thing is that that goes back to the other thing I learned, Don, too. Is by the way, I may disagree with a legislator, but I don't personalize it. It's not
Right.
like I'm beating them up over an issue and going after them. I mean, I try to talk to them. What we say is we educate, then we legislate. And, we go in and we talk to them. And there's some legislators, they simply won't care what I say, and that's fine. But for the most part, we're able to do that. Um, Keep being data driven. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but the biggest thing is depersonalizing decision making. That was one.
Right.
Focus on what benefits K-12 education, the students we serve, and our members. And then this is the big thing. We've kind of cheated a little bit on this part right here, where we've gone down to say we continue to use surveys, polls, and questionnaires. We may use a one question poll on Facebook, knowing that that issue is coming up in front of the General Assembly that week.
Sure.
And we'll just say, hey, what is your thoughts on like vouchers? I mean, we use vouchers, and people get sideways with us sometimes on that. And it's been and it's open ended, so they're able to give a lot of questions. And from that, we call a common theme that came out of it. And surprisingly, a lot of teachers did oppose vouchers. That's not a surprise to anybody. But the one point that came out is, but if they're going to do it, let's make sure that we are being compared exactly like they are. That was the big takeaway from that. So if they don't have to take a lot of tests, and they don't, then maybe we should look at reducing our testing. And so that's become a key point for us. And we've talked to the legislature. They're going to have hearings on the 24th of July and in Tennessee on possibly reducing testing. And so we've talked to them about adaptable testing, and I've already done an editorial on that. We've been on that. But that is something that came out of a one question Facebook post that we put out there and got that information out. So we've done that. We talk about this all the time. We are the most relevant teacher association in K-12 education. We must act like it. And what I mean by that is that we are important as an association. We understand that. But we can't act like the union. And by that means, I hear this. The story was that somebody asked me the other day, said, "Are you going down to the protest rally?" I go, "No." And they said, "Are you going to the counter protest rally?" I said, "No." And then they go, "Well, are you not doing any of the protests?" And I said, "No." I said, "I don't even stand in line for a lunch buffet." I mean, I think that you have the obligation to speak out for your members, but going down simply to protest an issue actually dilutes your voice if you're out there to protest every single issue that comes down the pike. And what happens is that you tune the public out. The public turns away from you. The legislature turns away from you. People who are serious or trying to decide decisions sometimes turn away from you when you're constantly protesting every single issue. And my mother had a simple saying, and I've never forgotten it. And she said, if you're going to offer criticism, offer a solution. So when we criticize things, and we do criticize it, almost instantaneously, we'll at least offer a solution or a possible path that we could work toward to resolving the issue would be beneficial to everyone.
Very wise.
Well, and it is hard sometimes. Because
it's a lot easier to choose from something if you don't have a choice. At least give them a choice. So this is the alternative.
Yes, sir. That's exactly. We increase interaction, we build value, and we build relationship with our members. We're going to continue to work on that. That is a very necessary issue that we have to work on. We do a leader call. In fact, Don, one day I need to get you to be on our leader call. We do a leader call with the state, across the state, and sometimes it's difficult because we're both in East Tennessee is in the Eastern time zone, middle and west, we're in the Central time zone. So when we do a 4:00 conference call, it's 5:00 in East Tennessee. So we lose people. So we've learned the value of recording our conversations and then sending those to people for either group that has to miss. And so we try to do that. And so it's important. We focus on engagement and interaction levels because we believe that offers the retention. You don't have to just recruit members. You have to also retain members. And retention is job one. You have to make sure you do that, which I'm going to bring you that to the next one. Here's our nonpartisan action still needed. Focus on issues affecting educators, students, not outside issues. Work with both sides of the political aisle. It seems like today nobody wants to do that. We do, and if you look through my Rolodex of calls and phones and everything, you'd be surprised at how many people. Now, Tennessee's 2/3 Republican right now in the General Assembly, so 2/3 of the people are Republican. But in my Rolodex, 2/3 are Republican, 1/3 Democrats. And then I have some Democratic stakeholders. I talk to them as well. I've written for Democratic papers. I've written for Republican papers. I don't care. I'm agnostic toward where it goes. I'm just trying to put out a message that benefits our members and benefits teachers and students across the state of Tennessee. And so it really doesn't matter to me and what forum the message appears. And we're in the business of adding to our impact, not adding to our detractors. We don't go pick fights with people just to pick a fight. And too often, I think that's what the union is doing. They want to be so relevant sometimes, they just pick a fight where they don't need to pick it. And so, do you have anything on that, Don?
Well, no, I think that's kind of our philosophy too. We don't really choose a side. We have an issue, and if you're not on our issue, we're not too happy with you. But we certainly encourage you to change your mind and get on the correct side, which would be, of course, our side. But the one thing I would like to go back to, if I could,
yes,
you mentioned about the protests. How you don't really you can't go out and protest about anything. So I was it just made me think. Do you ever do protests? Do you ever get protests? And if you did, which one was the one or at least one of them that you did?
Yeah, I wouldn't go to any of the protests. I think that we've had a issue at our General Assembly in the last 3 years where protesters have come in. They lay down in front of in the General Assembly. It's peaceful protesting. It is. But by laying down and they disrupt the flow, they yell, they get escorted out. I can sit back and watch it on my video. I can sit here and watch it live because they live stream it, and I can text legislators sitting in the committee on issues or questions I may have and talk to them in real time. Which is even better. I mean, that's something we have been doing in Florida. I mean, I'd gone to Florida, as you know, and spent some time in Florida. And one of the things that we learned in Florida was we rarely appeared in the committee, but we would watch it live the entire time. And right then we would text, members an answer or a question to ask or something like that. Sometimes they ask it, sometimes they don't. But by and large, and that also increases the dialogue we have with the legislature because we'll have a legislator come back and call us after that and said, hey, you wrote me about this reading initiative. What did you mean by that? Adaptive testing is one. I texted a legislator this week about the need to move to adaptive testing, which is a new way model. 20 states have moved to it. And we think it's really something we ought to look into. And he said, so you think we need to do that next year? And I said, no. And he said, well, why not? And I said, because the cost would be prohibitive. I said, however, over time, it would save you money. And that's what they found in California moved to it. They used their, I think it's smarter balance test that they use, which is adaptive testing. The problem with it is it's built on Common Core, which Tennessee has prohibited. But the other side of that is Utah has the same model testing, adaptive testing, but they use it with their own standards and everything. And if Utah can do it, so can we. And I think Utah, which spends far less money, on their education has one of the better education systems in the nation. And it's because they've put a value on education. And so I think there's a lot we can learn from them. And so we do that. So,
Have you worked with anybody in Utah at all?
no, I don't. And I think they're ripe for somebody to work with them. So I think that, I mean, I know a couple people out there. I know some folks, but, in general, we're not working with any specific group out there. So legal action is a strategy. And this is where I get into this. Use a strategic litigation. We have not sued a school district yet. Alternative dispute resolution is coming at some point. I think we're heading toward that. We're able to mediate ourselves between me and superintendents a lot of times, and with our legal staff here. They work with that. We work on early conflict resolution to assist members in K-12 education. Let me give you a good example of this, Don. We had a teacher that called. She was very upset. She was crying, in fact. It was her birthday, and the principal of the school had given her bus duty on her birthday, and she was upset. And so I called her at home, and I said, I want to talk to you. And I said, let me ask you something. I said, I'm going to call your principal in the morning. I said, to see, whether this was punitive or not. But let me ask you, do you think it was punitive? And she said, oh, no, not at all. She said, I think he didn't know it was my birthday and just assigned me bus duty. They alternated 35 teachers. It was my turn in the system to take bus duty that day. And doing that, I said, well, do you think if you had gone to your principal, he would have assigned you another bus duty day? She goes, yeah, I do think he would. I said, well, would you like me to call him in the future and ask if we could possibly make sure that we don't assign you bus duty on your birthday? And she said, no, sir. She said, I think I can do that. And I said, okay. And I said, well, if you want me to, I will be glad to do that. And so she said, no. She said, but I appreciate you calling me and just walking me through that. She said, I am going to do that next year. I'm going to make sure that they understand, that I had plans for tonight. I wanted to be with my family and whatever. And it was worked out. I mean, it's simple things sometimes. But if the union had gotten involved with it, they would have called it. They would have gone down to the office with their UniServe rep, and they would have elevated the game. It would have been there. The district would have had an attorney there. And at the end of the day, it would have been the same thing. The principal didn't know it was her birthday, didn't probably mean to assign her that. And it worked. This way, she talked to herself and worked it out. But sometimes we just have to talk to teachers and talk to our members and encourage them on how to approach a situation. And there's multiple times every day that our legal team, when you call in our office, you're not talking to a UniServe rep who has not any expectation of privacy, by the way. You're talking to an attorney when you call into our office, and that's very important. And our attorney spends 99% of his time dealing with those issues.
Well, that's an interesting point there about the UniServe. So there really is no expectation of privacy when you're talking to them. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, they have no reason that there's no secret. An attorney, the only time the attorney can share anything with me is when they have permission from the educator to talk to me. Now, I have a really good relationship with superintendents across the state, and sometimes, and they'll tell you that sometimes we fight. I mean, we will have disagreements and arguments and that, but because of the professionalism and the ability to talk to superintendents, many times I can just pick up a phone and say, look, you're looking at suspending this teacher. Instead of suspending them for 3 days, can we suspend the teacher for 1 day and make them go through a professional ethics course? And I go, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, what is the lesson you're trying to learn? I'm trying to teach the teacher that, not to. Here, Don, one of the things we tell teachers every day, we preach this: please do not put your hands on a kid unless you are protecting yourself, which they are allowed to do then, or you're protecting another kid from getting hurt, there's really no reason to put your hand. Yet, almost regularly, we have teachers who touch kids, and not for inappropriate, by the way, not for anything of a sexual nature or anything like that. Many times it's just slapping them on the back, patting them, things that you take for granted in our own world, that they can get in trouble for. And one incident, and I don't want to cite it, but and one incident, just taking a girl by the arm and taking her to the garbage can to spit her gum out. Well, she touched the girl. It was fine. The parents were fine. The teacher was fine. The little girl was fine. Everybody was fine. But the video got put on the internet. And you have to assume everything you do today is going to be on the internet.
That's true.
And it can be misconstrued if you're watching it somewhere different. Everybody who looked at it at the end of the day said nothing. It was stupid and whatever. But it's a whole different world. Marine story, since you and I share that bond. Let me share this one. Had a Marine. He weighs about 150 pounds. He wasn't a big man. And what he ended up doing was he broke up a fight where a 250-pound kid was on top of a 100-pound female teacher. And he went down and drugged the 250-pound kid off of the teacher. And he had to call us and said, "Am I protected?" And we said, "Absolutely. You did nothing wrong." I mean, he did everything right. Fast forward, by the way, this guy was a drill instructor at Paris Island, and he was in the platoon next to mine while I was doing boot camp.
Wow.
And so it's a small world, but he just an incredible leader. But he, without hesitation, went in to protect that teacher because there was no telling how bad this student would have hurt this teacher had it not been for this man intervening. But what we don't want to have happen is we don't want frivolous lawsuits. Mm-hmm. And so that we think all the time that the union engages. I got drug into one of their frivolous lawsuits where they didn't like the outcome of a collaborative conferencing vote. So I got drug into a frivolous lawsuit where I had to take one day of my life to go down and provide testimony on how many times I had talked to a superintendent, which, by the way, was once. And I had sent the guy one email and sent him and talked to him one time, and they had sued him and they were going after him. But because I'd sent him one email, they drugged me into the lawsuit against it, which ultimately went nowhere. But it was such a waste of my time, the superintendent's time, everybody's time. And it just frivolous lawsuits. And I don't think people realize in the union how many times there's lawsuits that are filed and how much money gets spent in the legal arena for whatever. And we know that the union will sometimes target superintendents because they figure out if they can take this one superintendent down, they can impose fear in superintendents in the area.
Well, they went after several. I remember I met a member of the board. I think it might have been Nashville, and they were being targeted by the union.
Yes, lawsuits filed on a regular basis. So we have not sued a school district. We do hold out but we hold out the possibility that at some point it may get to that we may have to. But you will know, and I promise this, if we ever sue a district, there is no other recourse but for us to take that action, because we have gone through every means possible. And like everybody, when lawsuits are filed, the only winners are lawyers themselves. So they win the money. So it's not that. Here's the other point that we're going to point out, that we are the expert association in the state regarding teacher rights and responsibilities. And that is important for people to understand that. We get calls, like I said, what's surprising to us is that we get a lot of calls from non-members who will call and say, no one has ever told me that we could do that. No one has ever told me that I have to do this responsibility. social media is a two-edged sword in the world, and by that I mean teachers will post. They don't think about it. They think they have every right, but they'll go in and they'll post something on the internet about something, or they'll have a picture made. I was with a superintendent who told me himself that his own. He said, my own daughter-in-law. They were out on the beach, and there she was holding a beer can in her Facebook post. And he said, my phone rang off the wall from parents that didn't want their child in my daughter-in-law's class. He said, I had to call her and say, take that picture down. And, and it's just things that you have to be careful about. And small town, rural Tennessee, a little more so than ever. But you have to be careful what you post on social media, pictures, comments. You can't talk about a kid. We have to tell people all the time, do not befriend a kid under the age of 18. Don't do it. If they ain't blood relative, if they're not blood relatives, do not accept their friend request. Do not send them a friend request. And so that's another thing. People, leadership development, and location. We have to ensure we have the right people to deliver our vision. I'm very, very selective in our leadership. We do a leaders call. Anybody can be a leader. That's the beauty of what we do. We have some people that we have a Republican at one school and a Democrat at the same school. They cannot stand each other. And interestingly, they are both leaders and they both love professional educators in Tennessee. And so they go, well, am I the leader or is he the leader? I said, you're both the leader. I said, I'm going to send it to both of you. Can you both send it out? Take your time. And we've made them work together, which has been interesting. And they've done a really good job. And we've grown in that school district. But we don't accept, we don't play a hierarchy of leadership. They want to be leaders. But I do look at our leaders. I don't want just anybody being a leader of our association. But anybody can be. But we want to make sure we vetted them, make sure that there's, why they want to be there. And then we do the leadership call, which we reinforce our principles, which we go over today and talk about. We focus on leadership development. We think that's important. And we create a better setting for work using a hybrid model. We are an association. We are not a labor union.
Right.
And
now, on your leaders, now is there some kind of? I'm assuming you have certain standards you want to maintain, obviously, and is there? I guess there are certain requirements that you kind of expect from them as leaders for that area. Is that?
Yes, yeah, exactly. We ask them not to be aggressively partisan. You can campaign and work for anybody. This is my brother-in-law running for Congress. Well, then by all means, get involved in that race. But when they take positions like that, I had to go to one of our members and ask them to stay out of a political race. I said, this guy's on the Senate Education Committee. Please don't get involved in this race. Vote for whomever you want. I don't care. I said, but don't be seen actively and then try be the leader of our association in that community because what you're doing is hurting us. And I had the member call me, the legislator called me and say, look, said JC said, I know you didn't get involved. I know you weren't involved. I checked. You weren't involved in my race. I wasn't, but your buddy was. And I said, yeah, I know. I said, well, I'm pretty upset with your organization. And I said, was I involved? I said, no. Was our association involved? No. And I said, well, he has the right to vote for whomever he wants. And he goes, well, I guess you got a point there, but it does, it hurts. And so, yeah, we do want leaders that are going to be, and we want people that usually have, have been in the system a year or two. Every once in a while we get somebody that's moved over from one district to the next and want to continue to be a leader. And we're fine with that. We know them. We can vouch for them. But we want to make sure that they've been there because your first year teaching, I don't care what organization you're in, it's probably not the year to be an association leader because you're walking in, you don't know where the landmines are, you don't know you don't know what's going on in that community, you don't know the community, you don't know that school, and if you come in, and we see that as well, with some teachers who have tried to come in and push for certain things and just ends up hurting them. But anyway, for our employees, one of the things, Don, that we've started working on is making sure that keeping our staff as small as possible. Believe it or not, we value being small, and that comes from the Marine Corps in me. And I will say that Marine Corps, we never worry about being the smallest branch of the service because we know we're the best. and so it was always the key area for us is we want to make sure we're lean, mean, and able to serve the members' needs. We're not out trying to grow. Our salaries are not extravagant. They're very much in line naturally. They're not, I would argue that most of the union secretaries make more than our employees. So we're not paying exuberant salaries to people, but we try to make sure we create flexibility here. This summer, we've gone home at 4:00. We've not gone out to 5. Our normal business hours are 9 to 5 every day. We've closed down for most of the summer, 9 to 4. We take off 1 hour because just simply trying to catch up. Our phones aren't ringing as much. And so we try to be flexible, allow our employees to do that. We know because of the cost of living in Nashville, some of our employees drive a good distance to get here. So we want to make sure that, we do have a very comfortable office, but it's nothing extravagant. We lease, we don't own the building. So those are all important things. That separates us. The association, the union in our state in comparison owns a expensive building downtown that, as they've lost members, has just become an empty space. So I know they tried to sell it several years ago and they couldn't sell it. So that's their problem. That's their problem, not mine. So work with other like-minded groups to address common issues and problems. CEA, as you know, CEA is our Coalition of Independent Educator Associations. We work together, all the independent groups. We're a networking association. Nothing that one group does is bound upon the other. We appreciate our sister groups. We call them our sister groups. We join tackle. We'll do a call and talk about, hey, are you doing something innovative this year? Yes, we're doing this. And then CEAFU. CEAFU has been really, people don't realize this, but there would be no CEA if there wasn't a CEAFU. Like I said, you guys have been around since 1967, Don. Correct me if I'm wrong. National Right to Work has been deeply involved. You guys have been on the cusp of fighting for the front end of making sure teachers had the right to choose the association that they wanted to be a member of, which is a basic human right, by the way. And you guys have been around. And one of the things I think sometimes gets lost is how incredible and forceful and innovative you guys were in helping us grow without imposing your will. Never once has National Right to Work or CEAFU or any of the groups try to ever tell us what to do or tell us how to
we're kind of like you. We're more focused on helping a teacher or the educators in that situation maintain their freedom.
And you guys do great. I mean, Janus, people don't realize this. Janus does not happen without CEAFU, and which really has done a great service. And if I do one commercial, it would be for you guys. I mean, I think that so if there is going to be a protest and somebody comes after you guys, I'll come out as long as there's food afterward. I would definitely be there. But I think that identify pertinent issues, as you say, right here. By the way, this is the dyslexia bill that I was talking about.
Oh.
That's a little girl. And I got to share about that. That's Senator Farrell Hale right there. That's me. But this little girl is an amazing story. I had 8 people lined up to testify, 5 of whom had PhDs. And we were all in line ready to blow the legislature out of the water with why dyslexia was such an important piece and why we needed to address that this year in our General Assembly. And this is 2016, and this young lady stood up and she said, "Let me tell you about my life." And she said, "When I go to a restaurant, I pray that there is a picture of food on the menu because I can't read a menu. And she said, they've tried to teach me to read every year, and I cannot do it. And I need to make sure that other kids who come along after me get an opportunity. And she said, I can pass a test if you read the test to me or if I get a chance to look at it. But reading the test takes me longer. I just need some more time to read it if I'm going to take the same test as everybody else. She said, so I am 62 years old this year, and I've been going to the Tennessee General Assembly since I was 16. I've never seen this before or since. The General Assembly, the members in the Education Committee stood up and clapped for this young lady when she got through giving her testimony.
Wow.
And the PhD guys, all of them are looking at me, and I'm like giving them the sit down sign because we don't want them to testify. There was nothing else I needed to do. That bill passed as much
Unanimously
for us because this young lady stood up and had the courage to tell her story of what it was like to have dyslexia. Build statewide coalitions when and where possible. It is important to build those coalitions. And again, if you are an educator out there looking, if they have the name professional educators in them, more than likely, they're going to be part of CEA. There's others like Association of Texas Professional Educators, Professional Association of Georgia Educators, Palmetto State Teachers Association is a sister group. And we could go down the whole line of all those groups. Mississippi Professional Educators, we got that. But I can tell you this, if you're in a state that does not have an independent teachers group, and there's about 25 that do not, I would encourage you to contact CEAFU. If you're not able to get your rights to get out of the union, do that. And, can look at other groups that are out there. There are some national groups out there that are independent, but I would tell you there's at least 25 groups and we're expanding. I think now the Pennsylvania group has helped a group in Delaware.
Yep.
So I know that we're working on that. And so there's an opportunity for us, but in my opinion, and I've been doing this a long time, in my opinion, the independent teacher groups are the wave of the future for our nation. And so if you're not getting into it, do it. And modern approach for educators, again, that's what we offer. Leadership and staff must be coordinated, sophisticated. We do a lot of stuff to, like when you call in, you can monitor your own membership online. One thing that separates us from union, here's a simple thing. If you're a pregnant female and you're on maternity leave, you can freeze your account at Professional Educators of Tennessee. If you're in the union, you're still paying dues for services you're not getting. So that's a good example. You can come in, freeze your account. We have people that leave the profession. They come back. We do that. We'll bend over backwards to help our members. And again, we are the most relevant teacher association in K-12 education in our state. That's our goal. That's our objective. And that's what we strive to be. And we think we're there, based just on, doing that. They do a better job of being on Google probably, but I guarantee you we do a better job of being on the news, being in the media, and talking to policymakers across the state than they do. For us, member recruitment is job one. Get professional educators in front of potential members. No one likes to brag, but members join associations for the benefits. As much as they may like me, Don, they're not joining because they like to see my smiling face. Now, they're joining for something. They want something, and we need to make sure whatever that is, we're giving it to them. Be open to membership options. We're working on some things. I'm not at liberty completely to tell you that or to get out yet because we're close. We're real close. Been working on it for a number of years. But we do think we're going to create new types of member options. We're going after classified employees this year. I was at a public schools system. I spoke at it as a large number of administrators at this, over 200 administrators at the meeting. I get done. Secretary walks up and says, I want to join your association. And I said, we want you. So we're going to keep working on that. We want to make sure we're open to all sorts of members that we serve because they're there, from the bus driver that picks the child up in the morning to the takes them home at night, to everybody that interacts with that child, the school secretary, the school nurse, every single person. It takes all of us to educate that child. And so we're going to make new member recruitment fun and innovative, and we incentivize it. If you're a member, we call it referbates. If you are a member and you recruit another member, you'll get a check from us for $25. And we get some people, we have to cap it sometimes. We tell them no more than 150, but we get people that will absolutely go out and recruit 20 people. And we think that's a great system. If they want to make it a job and get money out of it and pay for their own membership, so be it. We love it and we want them to do that. So make it fun, recruit, and incentivize your people. We're not there. One of the things the union does is they'll hand somebody $50 if they'll sign up to pay $700. That's not good math to me, but that's the way it works. So that's it. And then finally, thank you. I leave you with this thought. To promote the education profession, we must be pragmatic. Organizations like Professional Educators of Tennessee demonstrate it's possible to be nonpartisan, non-union. Association for Educators in the state, where we focus on advocating for educators' rights and needs. We offer professional development opportunities. We provide resources for teachers to enhance the educational experience for their students. And so we're doing that. We champion the right of educators to freely align themselves with any organization of their choosing, free for coercion and pressure. We think that's a winning message, which we've put. We provide educational advocacy and promote professionalism, collaboration, and excellence without a partisan agenda. That's our message, Don, and that's what we think sells. And we think any organization that wants to sell that same message will have success and grow by doing that. So with that, I'm going to give it back to you, and you can ask me anything you want.
That's something else. You ought to be the ambassador for Tennessee.
Maybe next governor. So we'll see.
All right. Well, JC, again, appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
And
Thank you so much.